Okay, Candice. So the question of the day, we are going to Disney World in a matter of weeks.
Yes.
We are going to be there at Christmas time.
Well, we'll be there when it's decorated for Christmas.
Christmas time.
All right.
If it's Christmas in Disney, it's Christmas time,
Okay. Fair,
right?
fair, fair explanation. Fair
Right.
assumption.
What are you most looking forward to on our trip?
Seeing you see it decorated in person as it is because it's stunning. Like videos, pictures, all of that don't do it justice at all. And I think I can't wait to see reaction to it all.
Yeah, I think it's super exciting.
What about you?
I think I am most looking forward to seeing it snow on Main Street, USA in Central Florida
There you go.
during the Christmas party.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Christmas party is going to be a ton of fun.
Yes.
I will be interested to see if we end up getting on very many attractions that night or if we just walk around and enjoy the party.
Well, to be fair, I think if we go with our plan for that day, we're going to be in Magic Kingdom all day anyway.
Right,
So my assumption is that we're going to spend time at the party and not at the
right.
attractions.
With one exception before we get into the whole episode,
Hmm.
depending on the line and the wait, maybe Tiana's.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
that at nighttime
Yeah.
with lower crowds.
Yeah.
Because the party is
Depending on the
what?
weather.
Right, depending on the weather, but that's 4 hours, right? The party is 4 hours.
Yes.
Okay. If we get on one attraction, and I know you love Haunted Mansion at night too,
I do.
so
I do.
we'll probably get on an attraction or two. But my guess is we're gonna look for cookies, we're gonna look for the drinks, we're gonna look for some of the party exclusive stuff,
Yeah.
and maybe not spend as much time the fireworks, the parade,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I think will all be things we're gonna want to prioritize. But that's something else we need to plan,
Yes, it is.
like sort of what we want to do that night.
Mm-hmm.
Need to get Travel Party on another Drinks with Minks night and plan, like, talk through some of that so it's not let's just go by the spur of the moment.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Scott.
I'm Candice.
I'm Lacey.
And I'm Lariah.
Grab a drink and come hang with us at the Hangar Bar.
Today's episode, we might get a little snarky, folks.
Ooh.
We are going to spend a little bit of time talking about Disney guest entitlement.
Which is a fairly hot topic and kind of a saucy one for us.
It is, because we have some opinions.
We do.
We
We
definitely do. And where I want to start this conversation, Candace, is when we were on Chuck's Cantina podcast.
Yes.
It was right after they had announced the newest version of the Lightning Lane, which is like, it's called like Lightning Lane Premier, or it's something I'm never going to use, so I don't bother to memorize the name of it.
Right.
Once they announced that, the online banter made me want to scream.
Okay.
So I think in order to get to why, let me talk a little bit about what they introduced.
Please do.
Disney, for Deluxe Resort guests, launched a new level of Lightning Lane that you can pay money to be able to get on every Lightning Lane attraction in one park once on the day that you buy that pass. So you would be able to get into the Lightning Lane for each attraction once, and then if you wanted to do others, you'd have to wait and stand by just like everybody else. The cost for that is dependent on the park that you're in, and my guess is next year it will be surge demand priced as well.
Of course.
But they're selling a limited number of it, and it goes anywhere from $199 for a park that has like 4 lightning lanes in it, like Animal Kingdom, to $450 for 1 day per person for a park like Magic Kingdom.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's spendy, and
Yeah.
it's only available to Deluxe Resorts.
Sure.
So tell me, what do you think the online reaction to that was?
I'm sure it was, well, I'm never going to be able to afford that. That's not fair. Blah, blah, blah. Disney's just trying to make money. Nah, 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 nah. On and on. The same babble that we've heard for years whenever they make any sort of a pricing change at all.
Right. You're spot on. The overall, as I was looking at all the different social media posts and following it on Twitter because I refuse to call it X, and following along on Reddit, the general consensus was, well, Disney's just trying to price the normal person out of the park. My gut reaction to that was, they didn't tell you you had to buy this to have a good time.
Right. And just an observation. Like the past few times that we've been there, we've stayed at deluxe level resorts.
Yeah.
We would not pay that price for that service,
No.
regardless of where we were staying.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. And that's like when I was because I mentioned to Chuck in Chuck's Cantina that I like arguing online with people every now and
Which I
then.
don't know why you do that to yourself.
I live with an introvert, and that's my way to kind of be an extrovert.
No, your way to be an extrovert is go out in public and talk to random strangers, which
Well,
drives me about as nuts as it does when you argue with people on the internet. But I digress. Go
well,
ahead,
that too.
please.
Where was I going with that?
Arguing online.
Yeah, but where was I going with that?
Deluxe resort, paying for this.
Oh, yeah. So part of the reason why we would not pay for that kind of a pass is Disney is known for storytelling.
Yes.
The storytelling starts the minute you walk under the sign to get on the attraction.
Yes.
The story is told through the standby queue.
Absolutely. 100%.
I've been on enough lightning lanes and I've been on enough single rider lines that you miss the entire story or most of the story on a lot of that. Now, they're getting better about the lightning lanes. You get a condensed version of the story or whatever. But again, I will say Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is an attraction I won't go on with a lightning lane.
Right.
You just miss too much of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just a mediocre roller coaster
At best.
at best.
Yeah.
Instead of having the whole story of how you get where you're at and
Mhm.
working with people in the queue and being a part of a community and all of those kind of things that I really appreciate about Disney
Mm-hmm.
that you don't get when you go to other parks and other places.
Yes.
So that was kind of my point is we don't necessarily want to skip all of the standby lines.
Oh.
And so that's something that I don't feel like we need to afford.
Right. And another piece of that puzzle is, and why it wouldn't be the right choice for us. Number one, I don't want to spend that kind of money on that.
Right.
Number two, we, or at least I, am of the perspective that there is so much to just see and
Yes.
be a part of and notice while you're moving through the park, and some of the details that we've talked about before, and the ambient music in the areas and the ground that changes and
Yep.
all of those things. I'm perfectly happy just being there. The attractions are frosting on top of my cupcake, but I'm happy just there.
Yeah.
And so I don't necessarily want to have the pressure of spending ungodly amounts of money for something where I have to go attraction, 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 and miss all of that other
Right.
stuff, because then it becomes just another park.
Right.
And that's not for me.
Right. Yeah, it becomes Six Flags. It becomes Universal
Oh,
because you're just moving from thing to thing to thing. So here's my question for you, Candice.
I know you didn't mean it that way, but that hurt my heart a little bit.
Sorry. Apologize. So here's my question for you.
Yes.
When did it become that Disney had to make everything for everyone?
I don't know that there ever has been a written thing or even an inclination of an idea that Disney is supposed to be for everyone, like all things for everyone. It's definitely not.
But if you listen to people talk long enough, it becomes I can't afford that, so they are pricing me out of Disney World.
And that may very well be true, but they're not doing it to specific people. Like that's the thing. And again, I said this during the conversation with Chuck, and I will say it again, and I've said it on this podcast before. People go to Disney expecting perfection,
Right.
right? Because Disney has built a legacy of perfection for over 100 years now. That's what they do. They're storytellers. They do the best in the industry. All of these things. They've got beautiful theme parks. They've got great theming. They've got great attractions. They've got multi-million-dollar animatronics that they have developed for immersion into these stories to take you out of reality for a little bit. And that perfection costs money, and a lot of money.
Right.
And so I don't quite understand the argument of, well, they shouldn't charge that much because I can't afford it.
Right. And and I will give people the cost of admission into Disney World or any Disney theme park has gone up
Astronomically.
over the last 10 years.
Yes.
I complain about entry into the park.
Yes.
You can complain about that price.
Yes.
But why do you feel like them introducing another tier of a voluntary service has to be priced so everyone can afford it?
Right. Because the point of this whole thing, I don't know this for certain, but it's just an educated guess. It's my hypothesis that the purpose of this entire thing is to cut down on some of the standby lines and the people complaining, I've been in a line for an hour and a half for this attraction. When you do have people going to the parks just for attraction,
Right.
they're trying to crowd balance, is what they're trying to do with this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are going to go to the park and just go from thing to thing to thing to thing and not partake in everything that they have to offer and be willing to spend a little bit of time, you're going to have to pay a premium for it.
Right.
They're trying to figure it out. And I don't know that this is the right answer, but I'm not going to take it away from them because they know far better than I do.
And they're just rewarding people that choose to stay at a deluxe resort with something else that they can. If you're rich enough to stay at a deluxe resort and you're rich enough for two people to drop $1,000 on an additional $1,000 for a day at Magic Kingdom, and you feel like you want to do that, great.
Go for it.
It's not impacting my trip.
Oh,
Why? And that's like when I talk about Disney entitlement, that's what I'm talking about. Because the people that are complaining, oh, that's priced at a spot where I can't afford it, so therefore it's bad. What they want it to be is, oh, I want to price this at $100 per person per day, but with 100,000 people that go into Magic Kingdom, if you price it at $100 per person per day and it gives you an access pass, the fast pass queue will become the new standby queue. The standby queue will not move.
no.
And they'll have to put another third one to differentiate to get the lines to move.
Yep.
So Disney is in one of these no-win situations of they're trying to manage crowds. They're trying to give people spending more money an elevated experience.
Mm-hmm.
Which, where else do people complain about people spending more money and not getting an elevated experience? Like, does that happen in any other vacation industry? If I'm going to an all-inclusive and I choose to go to the one that's $100 a day, do I get to bitch that the one's $1,000 a day has more amenities?
Well, you shouldn't, but you could. I mean, honestly, you could say, well, why do those people get so much more than I? Well, because they're paying $1,000 a
Right.
day.
Right. It just, like, the entitlement of people to just basically say, if Disney does it, they have to do it in a place where I can take advantage of it.
Right. And that's not the case at all.
No.
And it never has been.
No.
Ever.
And it's still a place where, like, Walt wanted it to be a place for families to be able to go to. It's still that.
Yes.
Yes, Fast Pass used to be free.
Mm-hmm.
It's not anymore. Oh well. But that I still contend. I don't know I'm not a Disney employee, so I don't know
Cast
for
member.
sure. We need to have that debate sometime too, because I think I read somewhere that the only people that are cast members are the ones that work in the park.
That's not true.
So
But anyway.
we'll have that debate another day.
Anyway.
But I think I don't work there, so I will never know for sure. But they started charging for Lightning Lane, Genie Plus, whatever they wanted to call it back then, because it was an unfair system to everyone. And people like Disney can't win. People bitched when they got rid of the paper fast passes.
Well, and the reason they got rid of the free or paper fast passes was because people would go to the kiosk and just reserve like an entire stack of
Yeah,
fast
they figured out how to
passes.
cheat the system.
Yeah, and so nobody else could get in to the way it was intended. So I guess when people are griping and bitching about this, they need to blame themselves
Yeah.
because this is why we can't have nice
Yeah.
things.
So the paper fast pass, also technology
Right.
got better,
And
but that's
paper
part of
and
it. But and then people were complaining, "Oh, with fast pass, I don't like to think about what rides I'm going to be on 3 months before I'm in the park.
hmm
It doesn't allow for enough spontaneity." So Disney gets enough of that feedback, so they react to it and they create the lightning lane. Well, they went from the free lightning lane to Genie, right? I'm trying to think of the timeline.
yes.
To Genie and Genie Plus.
Yes.
Now they're back to lightning lanes or whatever.
Right.
Or they went from Fast Pass to Genie Plus with lightning lanes. Now they're just calling them lightning lane things.
Yes.
There we go. We got it right. But all of those were done based on guest feedback
Yes.
and trying to enhance the experience and make it better for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't understand why every time Disney announces something, everybody just instantly jumps to that has to be for me. I don't understand. So audience, if you understand that mentality, come out to our show and interact with us. Let us know because I just don't get it.
I do think it's an interesting debate, and I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that we are coming from a place of privilege.
Yes, and I totally am. So when I say I'm cognizant of I'm coming from a place of privilege, that if we really wanted to, and we wanted to stay at a deluxe resort, we would figure out a way to pay for that if we wanted to. That's where my place of privilege is from. And I think we haven't always been in this position.
No, I agree.
And we
I agree.
still made Disney work for us.
We did.
And I didn't complain that there were people that had better or different, not better, but different experiences, maybe heightened experiences,
More enhanced.
more enhanced experiences. So people are bitching about this new Premier Lightning Lane, whatever they're calling it. Do people bitch about the plaid coats and the VIP tours? No. What's the difference between somebody affording a VIP tour and somebody affording to be able to
Get
use these
this.
Premier Lightning Lanes?
Which I'm sorry, but I would rather have a plaid coat than buy this where I had to do it myself
Right.
because this doesn't come with snacks.
Truth. Very, very true. And
But I get your point.
yeah, I don't know why and maybe it's just the advent of social media and you see more of it, you hear more of it. People like to be the loudest voice in the room. So they find what's going to get them the most clicks, and the most clicks is being negative and bitchy.
Well, that, and I think like just the state of everything right now is so weird, and people are just unsettled, I feel like. And so, like, they're just grasping for something to hold on to, it
Yeah.
almost seems like. Like, and I get it. I mean, there's a lot of nostalgia associated with a lot of people with Disney, and that's one of the things that keeps pulling people back. And all this change is unsettling. So you've got the unsettling business with everything going on outside of Disney, and then you've got unsettled going on inside of Disney.
Right.
So it's hard to find balance. And like if you're looking for something for comfort and something that you've known for a long time, maybe your entire life, and that's not the same anymore, that can, I mean, that's weird.
Yeah, and so I guess I can like when they started charging for Fast Pass. Okay, you can complain about that, something that used to be free.
Right.
When they got rid of Magical Express, people didn't people didn't understand probably why Disney had to get rid of Magical Express, but it used to be something that was free that enhanced your vacation. It's no longer there. Okay. Be disappointed, complain about that.
Still a terrible decision, but I get it. I know why.
I don't think they necessarily had a choice.
No, they didn't. But anyway.
And I'm struggling to understand. I go to all the different experiences that you can do. You can do a minivan. It's available to everyone. but you have to be willing to pay more, and it's a heightened experience.
Right.
Do the people that get into a regular Uber or Lyft or ride a Disney bus back to their resort, do they complain about the fact that those people hopped into a minivan, were willing to pay that, or they look at them and say, that's a waste of money, I wouldn't do that?
They might.
And that's what they should do.
Right.
Right? If you don't agree with the way somebody's spending their money, shut the F up and let them spend their money.
Right. It's not your money that they're spending.
Right.
And it doesn't affect you in any way.
Right. Just like I think these premier lightning lanes are not going to impact anybody's park experience.
Right.
Except for the people buying it.
Right.
I'm the audience can't see me, but I'm throwing my hands up in exasperation right now because Disney adults kind of drive me nuts sometimes.
Entitled Disney adults.
Entitled Disney adults. And you just see that so much.
You do. And I, quite honestly, and I don't know that I would consider us influencers by any stretch of the imagination. We just talk Disney.
Right.
That's all. But I kind of blame influencers for how things are going because they get on and what they don't do a great job of explaining most of the time is that they've been invited to take part in certain experiences by Disney or by Universal or whoever it is that they are there for. All these companies have media days. All of these companies have this is opening or it's going to be this festival or this, that, or the other. And influencers don't do a great job of saying, we were invited. This is sponsored. Like, we didn't necessarily get paid for this, but we got in free or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And I think without that knowledge and without thinking that kind of thing through, it makes it look like anybody should be able to walk into these things and get whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, whatever.
Right.
So there's that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think influencers, I think just the advent of social media
in general
has, here's my hot take. The advent of social media has ruined people.
Yes.
And I'm going to be completely hypocritical here because all the arguing online about all these different things just ends up having people talk at one another instead of talking to one another and seeking understanding. Because if you're a keyboard warrior just yelling across the ethos to whoever's sitting somewhere else in the world with a different opinion, there's no chance in hell you're going to get your opinion changed.
No. But we've said that for a long time.
Right. It's still fun to do sometimes, but I understand what I'm doing when I do it.
Right.
And I think that's my thing with Disney entitlement is just a lot of that. My opinion's the right one. If you don't agree with me, you're wrong and you shouldn't be allowed to have your opinion. You see a lot of that kind of aggressiveness in Disney message boards, in Disney. Really what I'm doing tonight in this episode is convincing myself to stop following Disney stuff on social media. But then how am I supposed to stay up with all the recent news and that kind of thing?
Well, I think again, grain of salt is a good philosophy to take a lot of stuff is you can read through it and you can laugh at things that you don't necessarily agree with or say, well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever read. But it's just that look at it from a different perspective and just say, okay, I see how that affects them. And this may be a hot take for me. So whatever. When people are that angry about something that they don't have any control over at all, and it affects their life that much, I feel sorry for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm so sorry you're that sad.
Yeah.
And that angry. I hope you find happiness somewhere.
Yeah.
And I hope that I'm not at Disney the same time that you are and have an experience with you.
Right. Yeah, and the number of people that go into those message boards and they're just so upset and they say, "Well, Disney just priced me out. I'm going to take my money to Universal."
Peace out.
Yeah, that's my response every time. Great, one less person for me to have to fight in the crowd. Disney is printing money in their theme parks.
Yep.
Does the competition from other theme parks help and keep Disney on their toes?
100%.
Sure, 100%, and it should. Universal is doing their best to catch up.
Yep.
And doing we'll have to see when Epic Universe opens how good they do at that.
Mhm.
But still, that's one park out of all of the Universal spots and parks compared to everything that Disney does. And I think you'll still see people go to Disney with a side trip to Universal at a 90% to 10% clip over people that go to Universal and don't go to Disney or do Disney as a side.
Yes.
It happens, but it's not nearly as frequent.
Right. 100%. Because it's Disney.
Right. It's Disney. That's what you go to Central Florida for.
It's perfection.
Right. It's the
take
storytelling. It's
yes.
all of those things that people that and I again, this is me probably yucking someone else's yum, but the people that just go in and say it's all about how many attractions I can get on and that's where I add the value. Why? I don't understand that mentality and that methodology. Sorry for the background noise. Our dog is deciding that now is the time to make all the noise tonight.
She's having a moment. I don't know.
So
But
apologies.
but there again, like if you sit back and think, and if attraction hopping is your yum, I'm not gonna yuck it. It's not mine. And when you look at things like Tron, just as an example, the amount of time that people will dedicate to try and get into a virtual queue or in the standby line or whatever, however the heck you get on that thing now, I don't even know, because I really don't have any interest in it. But the amount of time that people plan and spend time trying to get into a queue and actually stand in queue once they're there for a minute and a half long ride,
Mm-hmm.
when you could be doing so many other things, even if it's just looking around, I don't understand. So maybe like one of our audience members or whatever can chime in on our socials and argue with us a little bit,
Right.
um, to help us understand, because I don't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like you were talking about Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, that's probably what, a 2.5 minute ride
Yeah. Something
at
like that.
most?
Yeah.
No, no.
Yeah. With usually a 45 to 70-minute wait
Right.
if
No,
you go
no.
through the full standby. And again, I will only go through the full standby on that attraction.
Right.
So how else does entitlement show up around Disney? Is this just me overreacting to how people are reacting to one announcement,
No.
or how else does it show up?
It shows up, and I think we've talked about some of this stuff before, but when you it's just kind of a general attitude, I feel like. Well, we paid $150 to spend this day in this park, and we've got 6 members of our family. So that's $900
Mm-hmm.
for one day in a park. That's a lot of money to spend in a park.
Yep.
But you did it, and you're here. But just because you spent that kind of money, we spent the same $150 a person. We are entitled to the same magic, to the same experiences, to the same enjoyment that you and your family of 6 are.
Right.
And just because we don't have children in tow does not mean that we
Yeah.
deserve any less magic
Yeah.
than people with children.
Yeah. So that just reminded me of an experience that we had in, was it our last trip or the trip before? It was our last trip, because one of our guests came over and stood with us, where we were in our normal Magic Kingdom fireworks viewing spot.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a family that came in front of us, and there were there was one or two adults and a gaggle of children. And we were sitting there watching the fireworks, and all of a sudden there were four kids of varying heights standing right in front of us. They climbed up on the wall and stood right in front of us. I don't blame the kid. The
No.
kid is doing what they can do to have their best experience. I don't expect a kid that's under 10 years old to think about the 40 something that's sitting on the wall behind them.
Mm-hmm.
I would never. Who I do expect to think about that 40 something, 50 something, 60 something, 70 something sitting on the wall behind them is the parent.
100%.
Pay enough attention to your kid to be like, hey, let's use this as a life. And I think this is sounding like deja vu. I've said this in an episode before.
I think you said it while we were there.
It very well could be. But use it as a teaching moment. Say, hey, we're all here to see the same thing. Take a look around and make sure that everybody can see.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're like, I think so, why don't you turn around and see if there's anybody behind you?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be a sit down, shut up, do whatever. It can be a let's make sure everybody has a good time. Look around, make sure you're not in somebody's way.
Right.
And then there's the parents that will throw their little kid up on their shoulders in the middle of a parade, in the middle of a fireworks show. And I get it. You want your little girl or your little boy to see all those fireworks and all the magic and that kind of thing. I paid the same price to be in the park that you did.
Right.
You just ruined my experience.
That moment of the experience.
That moment of the experience, right? Or the people with their iPads videoing
Ugh.
the fireworks. And like I wouldn't say that if we hadn't seen it more than once.
Yes.
Like a phone being out discreetly recording for a couple minutes, whatever, fine, I don't care. But we've seen full on iPads out recording a fireworks show
Mm-hmm.
for the entire show with the screen lit up.
And holding it above the head.
Right.
So that you're basically watching through an iPad
Right.
of what's going on.
Yeah. The entitlement of people to not think about other people drives me insane.
Well, and listeners may come back at that and say, well, you're being entitled because you're not willing to move, like away from that iPad or away from the children on people's shoulders. And I understand that perspective as well. But again, like this is my
Right.
spot.
There's
Like
limited space.
this is my space. And
right.
I'm here. And I'm not the smallest person ever, but I'm still entitled to my space.
Right. 100%. And I think that's where entitlement gets people.
And I shouldn't have to watch out for other people.
Right. But you do. And I think you should have to watch out for other people. I think we would be a better society if we would watch out for each other.
But you can't, okay, so this may sound a little hypocritical. You can't watch out for other people to the extent that it ruins your experience.
You look around, and if there's something you can do to get out of someone's way easily, if you are there late and you step in front of someone, you make sure that person still has the experience they thought they were going to get.
Yes.
You got to be a good human.
I think that's what it all boils down to.
Right. And at Disney, I don't know if it's because people are relaxed, they're outside of the real world, they're not thinking about the real world. All of a sudden, people become not good humans. Is it because of the amount of money they're spending?
I think that's a lot of it. I think they automatically think that the amount of money that they paid entitles them to a lower expectation of behavior.
Ugh.
And if anything, I expect an increased level of behavior.
Yeah.
I really, and I can't explain why, but I do. I like, just like when I say I call myself a Disney adult. For myself, that adds responsibility and a certain level of decorum
Mm-hmm.
that I expect of myself.
Yeah. I think some of that too is when you get yourself in a crowd, you have to act differently.
Yeah.
You can be a miserable person when you're sitting in your living room.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get around a crowd of people, it's not all about you. You are not the center of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And that just triggered something for me. Disney is very good at making people feel like they're the center of the universe.
100%.
So how does Disney fix that without ruining the experience, without getting rid of the perfection and the magic? How do they make people feel like they're the center of the universe, but still encourage them to be good humans in the moment?
I think just continuing sort of like when Enchantment was the fireworks show at Magic Kingdom and how the script said that you are the magic. I think sort of leading on with that and going into more of a deeper sense of community and like you can create magic moments for people. You don't have to be a cast member. You don't have to know anybody who's a cast member. Just like you being a good person is the magic that this world needs.
Right.
And that's in your day to day life, that's at Disney, That's, I mean, that's a good rule of thumb just to live your life that way.
Yeah.
And I think if they did more of that,
That's basically the story of the Epcot fireworks show,
yeah.
being a part of a community.
Mm-hmm.
So
We're
they're
all in this
trying.
together, so
Yeah.
calm down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying. There's only so much they can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. Again, prices for tickets have skyrocketed. Prices for hotels have skyrocketed.
Yes.
It's not an inexpensive vacation.
It's not, and part of that is demand.
Right. Right. But Disney also doesn't have necessarily a location where they can go open up another
Mm-mm.
park. Like, sure, would people flock to a Disney Texas? Probably, but you still have hurricanes to deal with. You still
Mm-hmm.
have all of that kind of thing, or a Disney New Orleans or a whatever. They,
That sounds awful.
I think it would be amazing.
I like New Orleans, but just the amount of time that they get hit with hurricanes
Right.
and no.
Yeah, but I think there's limited solutions that they have. They're trying to create more capacity in the parks they have, creating Villains Land, the Cars
Mm-hmm.
part. They're changing up Dino Land to be maybe a little bit more of a people eater. They're really working hard on trying to add capacity. But that's the thing is they are so popular that parks are going to continue to sell out
Yeah.
even with increased capacity because then they'll be able to bring more people in. They're going to have less of those days where sorry you can't come that day because we're out of hotel rooms.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have fewer and fewer of those because they've added more capacity. And it's just Disney is in a no-win situation. If they price it where people want them to price it, people would be like every day people would be turned away from going into a park.
Yes.
How would that be magical?
It's not.
And I get it. That family that's lower middle class that's making 70, 80 grand a year
If that.
that used to go once every 2 years now goes once every 5 years, and that feels horrible. I get it. I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, don't blame the fact that you can only go every 5 years on a lightning lane premiere that people that can go every year decide they want to pay for,
Right.
because that's not what's making you not be able to go.
No.
You can bitch and moan about the cost of tickets going up, but also Disney has a capacity problem.
They do.
There are no slow seasons anymore, and that is with the price increases that we've seen over the last 10 years.
Yes. If anything, it's gotten worse. I
Right.
mean,
And that's the influencers. That's
mm-hmm.
the people, like, you can go out and you can learn how to navigate your way around the parks, and it makes it seem much more doable. And there's so many people out there that here's how you reduce your cost for the trip, and here's how you yada 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 yada.
Don't take my job away from me.
No, but you get what I'm saying. There's lots of money saving tips, that kind of thing,
Yes.
that are out there. And so people are finding those loopholes. They're finding that way to go anyway. And Disney can't really do anything about that. So that's where I think you really have to drop that entitlement. If you're going, you have to understand you are entitled to, I think you're entitled to a magical experience if you're open to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think you're entitled to.
Mm-hmm.
You are not entitled to be able to go in and buy everything that you see at the park.
No.
Those lounge flies, those spirit jerseys, those popcorn buckets, those whatever, do not have to be priced where everyone can afford it.
No.
Period. So stop complaining about prices. Do people right now this is probably a bad example. Do people go to the grocery store and complain about the price of a box of Chex Mix?
They probably do. And they should.
Do they blame the grocery store for that? They probably should. But that's a different debate for a different day. But you get what I'm saying. Like, nowhere else in these people's lives do they go in and say, I should have the experience. Here's the grocery store example was a bad example. So let me give you another one.
Okay.
Do people go buy a purse from Kohl's, get mad at the people that go buy a Louis Vuitton bag?
I don't know that mad is the right word, and I don't know that what we're discussing is feelings of anger. I think it's feelings of jealousy, envy.
That could be.
Like, I can't afford that, so I'm going to be snarky and miserable and, like, shame you
Right.
because you can.
Right. And
Because it makes me feel better.
right. And there may be some of that when somebody who bought their purse at Kohl's sees somebody with a Louis Vuitton bag. They may judge that person for being bad with money or being snobby
Whatever.
or
Yeah.
whatever, but it's not, they don't necessarily do it in a public forum. What about Disney makes it to where people feel emboldened to just let themselves be the worst version online?
I think a lot of that is what you just said. It's online. Like, I don't know if you put a group of people together, like in a focus group situation or something like that, even the guest relations team at Disney. I don't think if you grabbed a handful of these keyboard warriors and said, okay, we're going to sit down in this room where we're all together and we're going to talk about your concerns. I don't know that people would be nearly as vocal as they are
Right.
online because they're not behind a screen, they're not behind a keyboard, they're not behind that shred of anonymity that that provides.
Right. That shred of, I'm never going to see this person.
Right. But quite honestly, if you think about it, unless you're traveling with a group of people, when are you ever going to see these people ever again that
Right.
you're in the parks with?
Right.
And you acting like a jerk and being nasty to a cast member because you feel like you're entitled to something that you're not getting
Right.
is ruining somebody else's moment,
Right.
which is enough. Don't do that.
100%.
So I think there is some of that. I think people are very, very strong and very, very brave and powerful when they don't have to be held accountable for their actions.
Right. Yeah, that sucks. This whole episode has been about talking to me about engaging less in social media.
I'm glad I can provide this experience for you.
Especially Disney social media, because
Yes.
it's one of those things where I've latched on to the brand, I've latched on to the service, I've latched on to the experience. So why do I let other people ruin that for me? Like, that's what I'm sitting here for the last 15 minutes asking myself. Why did I feel the need to record an entire episode about this?
Because you're passionate about it. And like when we first started seeing each other and got married, and like I was the big Disney
Mm-hmm.
power in this family. And it has been very heartwarming and very rewarding for me to see your evolution with the brand and find you almost at my level of passion with it. But I love seeing you engaged. I love seeing you passionate about it. And I think that's where all this is coming from.
I just need to make it to where it doesn't give me a heart attack.
Well, yes, that would be very appreciated.
Or a stroke.
Stop it. Lord.
I think I smell pennies.
You smell pennies?
Isn't that what it is
No,
when
you taste pennies and you
Oh,
smell toast.
okay. I taste toast and smell pennies.
Okay, weirdo.
Yeah. Did you eat breakfast today? What?
Something repeating on you? Oh,
Oh, okay. Well,
no, I do think it's because you're passionate about it and because you've got the nostalgia for the brand and you've also learned enough about the brand that and experienced the service that comes along with the brand that makes you want to defend the brand.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I just think that you need to, or I might suggest that you, when you read those things, you take it with a grain of salt. You try and look at it from other people's perspective. Say, yeah, I can understand how you feel that way, and then let it roll because that doesn't affect us.
That's no fun.
Okay. Then
As I'm
continue to taste your pennies and smell your toes.
Oh goodness. Well, yeah, speaking of entitlement and engaging on social media posts, come out to ours. Let us know what you thought of this episode. Let us know if what we got right, what we got wrong. I promise I won't yell at you from behind a keyboard. I wanna hear from you. I want to engage. I want to visit because if you're listening to this, you're probably as passionate about Disney as we are. So if we got something, or if we went somewhere you or didn't go somewhere you would have wanted us to go in this Disney entitlement conversation, come out and let us know. Or if you think we just completely missed the mark, let us know that too. I'd love to have my mind changed. So, or just engage in a good, healthy, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm wrong. And I
Or
will.
if you would like to possibly guest on our
Yes.
podcast and continue this discussion with maybe a different perspective than what we've shared, let us know.
Yeah.
We'd be open to that.
Yeah, we are completely open to having guests in the bar. Okay. Anything else that you want to talk about from a Disney entitlement perspective, Candice?
No, I think just our PSA for the evening is be a good person.
Be
Be
kind.
nice to cast members. They are the magic. I'll say it
Yes.
100 times a year, maybe more. I don't know. But be a good person. Be good to those around you. Be good to cast members. Just
Be a good person.
do your Disney duty
Be a good human.
and be a good human.
Yep. No matter what, be a good human.
Be the magic.
There you go. Good way to get that in there.
Thanks.
Good way to get that in there. Okay, everybody, this was a fun episode to record. Hopefully you enjoyed listening. And remember, there is a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
And we'll see you real soon.